The next aspect that he discusses in this essay is about social drama and aesthetic drama. He borrows this idea from Victor Turner, and here he explains what is social drama and aesthetic drama. So, Victor Turner says that social drama refers to real life conflicts and crises within society. These dramas involve actual people, events, and social consequences such as political scandals, family disputes, or community feuds. Aesthetic drama, on the other hand, is theatre or stage performance that mirrors, interprets, or comments on social events. While it may be inspired by real life social dramas, it is performed by actors and exists primarily for reflection, entertainment, or ritualized experience. So he says that when you look at social drama, it is those real life issues, it is the real life scandals, it is based on actual people. Whereas aesthetic drama is when these real life events are staged or performed. That is what aesthetic drama is. And he says that both these are interconnected. When you look at social drama, the events, let's say, for example, a political scandal happens, and somebody is influenced by this and they decide to create a performance. So when the audiences are already aware of the social scandal, but when they watch this performance, they might get some information which they were unaware about. So that kind of contributes to their further perception and understanding of the social drama. So this is why both of these are interconnected. And Victor Turner, the British cultural anthropologist, explains social drama and aesthetic drama to happen in four different stages. The first one is what he calls as breach, then crisis, regressive action, and reintegration or schism. So he uses the example of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet to explain these four stages in an aesthetic drama. He says that the first stage, breach, is where a social rule or an exception is expectation is broken. So here he's talking about the two families in Romeo and Juliet, how they are already enemies. Then there is a crisis happening. The crisis, in the sense, the problem escalates and cannot be ignored. So here you can see that Romeo and Juliet, despite their family feud, they fall in love, and this kind of intensifies the family feud. This is what he calls as crisis. Then is the redressive action, where the efforts to resolve the conflict is completely lost, which is evident in the play. Then the final stage is reintegration, where the conflict ends or splits the society or the characters. So when you look at it in the play, what happens is after the death of Romeo and Juliet, both the families kind of reconcile and they kind of patch up the problems that they had between them. So this is what he calls as reintegration. Now, the same thing is what is visible in the social drama as well. He uses the example of Ford's 1975 cabinet shakeup. He says that how the Ford inherited political tensions, crisis escalated through scandals, reshuffling ministers was redressive action, and reintegration occurred as he tried to establish his government. So this is what he uses as an example to show the political scandal. Turner shows that these phases apply to real life social events like President Ford's 1975 cabinet shakeup. Turner emphasizes an interactive infinity loop where social dramas influence stage dramas, and in turn, a stage drama shape cultural perceptions, providing participants with ideas, imagery, and strategies to interpret or act in real life. So, like I mentioned earlier, both are interconnected. One influences the other. And what he calls it, Turner calls it, is infinity loop, because this process keeps happening. It is like a never ending process. This model highlights that theater is not merely mimetic but deeply embedded in social process, showing how art and life continuously modify and reflect each other, producing new understanding and shared cultural meaning. So he's saying that if this is simply an example, so Schechner says that this is simply an example. Turner's idea of infinity loop is simply an example to show how art and life is completely interconnected and reflect each other. So this is the image of the infinity loop that he uses in his text. Then he moves on to talk about sacrifice and violence, which is both shown in performance and theater. He says that rituals are powerful multi-sensory experience that integrate music, dance, theater, mask, costumes, processions, fire, and communal participation. People are drawn towards rituals in religions, political, aesthetic, and sporting contexts because it stimulates both the body and the brain, releasing endorphins and providing deep psychological satisfaction. Also, rituals embody and communicate social values, combining rhythm, space, concept, and ideology to instruct and mobilize participants. So here he is saying that when you look at when he uses the term ritual, he's also talking about performance. So he's saying that when you look at a ritual or a performance, it integrates all these elements like music, dance, mask, costumes, the lights, the colors, the whatever is used to mesmerize the audience. What happens here is when a human being, the audience, witnesses this kind of activity, be it a part of a ritual or a performance, it kind of affects both their body and mind in a psychological way. It kind of releases endorphins and it gives them that satisfaction. So that side of the brain is sorted because it kind of helps them find that happiness. On the other side, you find how by talking about values and concepts and all, it kind of brings together that idea as well of social values and all. So in both these contexts, this is what catharsis is also in case of performance, how the audience feel that catharsis and they deny themselves from performing such a violent or violent act that is seen on stage. So here Sheshna says that this is what the effect of a ritual or a performance is on the audience. Now, what happens here is that he connects this to violence. He says that violence is kind of a recurring thing in plays like Greek tragedies. We have myths, Hindu myths or Christian martyrdom. Anything you look at it, you can see violence also being a part of it, even part of rituals. So he is saying that why are these violent acts part of ritual or performance? Even popular entertainment such as horror films, wrestling, or demolition debris indulges in spectacularized violence. Rene Girard, who is a French academician, explains this by showing that violence is mimetic. So Schechner borrows this idea from Girard and says that violence is kind of mimetic. So what happens here is that when these audiences watch that kind of violence happening as a part of ritual or performance, they find that satisfaction and they deny themselves from engaging in this sort of violent activity in real life scenarios. It kind of controls the violent side of human nature. It tends to escalate socially and is left, if left unchecked, threatens the cohesion of society. So Girard calls it a sacrificial crisis. And he says that if this violence is not there in theater or in ritual, then it becomes a sacrificial crisis. And human beings tend to be violent in the real world. Rituals therefore function to sublimate violence, channeling it onto a surrogate victim whose death or symbolic suffering restores social balance without provoking uncontrolled retaliation. Theatre extends this concept. Actors and audiences substitute for victims, allowing catharsis without real harm. So this is where he talks about how the violence is violence that is part of ritual and performance kind of stops human beings from projecting their violent side in the real world. Freud theorized a progression of animistic to religious to scientific worldviews and viewed art as rooted in magical, wish fulfilling impulse, offering insights onto symbolic function of ritual and theater. So Freud also talked about it when he talked about animistics, where in one phase everything in the world was connected to spirits. Then everything became part of religion. Then everything became part of scientific rational worldview. So even in this transition, Freud has also explained the same concept. Moving on to the final point of discussion, which is neurology, ritual performance, and play. So he's saying that how ritual performance, everything affects neurologically. Rituals engage both hemispheres of the brain, creating a trance, excitement, or ecstatic feelings. So, be it ritual or performance, it kind of influences both the hemispheres of the brain. Repetition, music, movement, and strong emotions synchronize brain activity, making participants feel pleasure and connectedness. So, this is what he refers to as the cortical synchronization. Because everything, both the hemispheres of the brain is synchronizing at the same time when they watch a ritual. However, play is unstructured, unpredictable, and flexible. It doesn't fit nearly neatly into the brain patterns or social rules. It exists in between, letting people experiment, be creative, and comment on society. So here he is saying that when you look at a performance, what happens is there is a kind of unpredictability about it. We are not sure what the next act is going to be, what is happening to the characters, what would happen to the characters. So this state in a performance is the in between state or the liminal state. So in a performance, this cortical synchronization might not happen to that extent. Now, in a ritual and performance training, ritual theater and social performances share similar processes. Performers undergo training, rehearsal, and initiation like experiences. So, this is kind of same for both ritual and performance. So, there is training happening, there is selection happening, like performances have auditions, etc. This training involves deconstructing and reconstructing the body, mind, and text to fully embody a role or a style. This is like ritual initiation. So, when you look at a performance, we have to practice a lot. We have to practice our expressions, we have to practice our movements. So, this is similar to a ritual initiation, according to Schechner. This shows the close connection between ritual and theatre, as both involve transformation, discipline, and the creation of shared experiences. So, when he earlier started off, he talked about how ritual was focusing on efficacy and performance was focusing on entertainment. But in earlier times, we could see both interconnected, be it a ritual or a performance, both kind of was entertainment and efficacy. Now, he's saying that if you look at it from the side of training, in that regard also both are interconnected, because there is a transformation happening in the participants. Their lives are disciplined, and so this is also contributing to the similarity between ritual and performance. In conclusion to the essay, he says that ritual, aesthetic, and social performances are interconnected. Each influences and draws from the other. Ritual can be purely indigenous ceremonies or hybrid forms such as the Yakui Vema, which blends native and Christian elements in participatory multi-genre performances. So he's giving us an example how rituals can be, both the extremes at the same time. Play underlines all performances, allowing humans to create temporary worlds where stories, archetypes, and symbols takes on cultural or universal meaning. In conclusion, ritual, aesthetic, and social performances mutually reinforce and shape one another, creating rich human experiences. So, in conclusion, he's simply trying to say that though ritual and performance, when these terminologies, you hear it, it might seem as extremely different from each other, but they are one and the same. They are interconnected. Their effects are the same. The preparations involved in it is same. So he is saying that both are interconnected, both are kind of reinforcing each other. So this is our end to the discussion on ritual and performance by Richard Schechner. Thank you, everyone.